The sixth set will be played on Planet S. Spawning in the top right-hand position, yet another Protoss player in the blue from STX Seoul. His name is Classic.
네. His opponent spawning in the bottom left position as Orange Protoss, playing for SK Telecom T1. His name is Rain.
Ne.
Uh-huh.
By the way, for those of you who don't know, ne means
yes
in Korean.
네, 알겠습니다. Alright, so I don't know what Classic has prepared on this particular map. As a two-player, he could certainly go for a cheese, some proxy play against his opponent. But then again, his opponent's name is Rain, a very solid player from SK Telecom T1.
And with the cheese we saw earlier on between Mini and Brown, would not be surprised to see Rain look around his base for some proxies and make sure that he is extra careful against his sneaky STX foe.
Here's a funny story about STXO. Back in round number 4, when it was like, regular Pro League format, they started winning a lot of matches because Innovation was doing well, Classic started performing well as a Protoss, but also because all the other supporting casts, when they needed to do so, they cheesed their opponent and it worked out.
That's a great story, man, but I don't see anything funny about it.
Well, it's kind of fine if you want to be technical like that. Well, it's a great for STXO because they get the wins when they need to and stop. You're not going to die over here.
You set me up
Just
for that joke
down.
so easily,
Calm
man.
down.
It was so
Calm
easy.
down.
Easy. All right. Looks like we have 2 gases on the way here from Rain, and a second gas just being added here for Classic. Now you're the one who needs to stop laughing, not me.
I'm just thinking about that right now. I'm just like, okay.
I'm thinking about Jimmy Buffett and some of his music right now, personally.
I don't know where you got that from.
I was listening to it in between some of the games, man.
And look at this. Classic just playing around with Rain's mind right now as he places a pylon outside of the main base. If Rain goes for scouting inside the main base, he's not going to see a pylon, so he's like, oh, there should be a proxy play somewhere around the map as soon as Rain counts how many pylons there are.
The real question here is going to be, does that pylon serve a purpose beyond trying to mess with Rain's mind and mentality?
At this point, I don't think so. I mean, putting the proxy over there and putting a building...
It's so obvious.
Yeah.
Where it is.
Yeah. It's kind of obvious, so it's going to hide and then fall around with Rain's mindset for a little bit in the game, but certainly putting down any tech over there is not going to be an option because it's going to get scouted right away.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it seems like Classic just wants to get into Rain's mind.
Yeah.
Mind. All right, we have a sentry on the way here.
You only said it 2 times, by the way. You're supposed to say it 3 times.
I said mind.
Well, you didn't time it correctly.
S&M's going to go hang himself after this cast, I think. All right, Rain's got a Mothership Core on the way here. And...
yeah, Classic just playing defensively right now, getting a sentry out and then a Mothership Core. Behind the scenes, getting a Nexus.
He is. I guess the pylon will be safe there now.
Yeah. Well, it was against early, like I said, early scouting from Rain, and since he didn't scout, well, the pylon's going to go unscouted at all, so it's not going to work out, but both players going for really fast expansion.
Indeed they are. Now, the thing is, it's becoming, I guess, Protoss players are figuring out how to do the early expands, and they're becoming better and better at it as well. So, like in the beginning of the Pro League season, fast expansions were relatively, I guess, rare in PvP. But nowadays, they're becoming more and more common. Neither players have even scouted each other, and they're opening up pretty much mirror builds here. Classic's got a slightly faster Robo, but other than that, there's not a huge difference really in these builds.
The only difference, like you said, the only difference is Classic is just 1 step ahead of his opponent in every single move.
I'm not even sure you can say he's 1 step ahead. Maybe like maybe like a half step.
Half a step, or like
fourth
quarter a step. Yeah.
A bit of a dub step ahead of his opponent. Like I'm not taking any of that from you, man. All right, the Phoenix from Classic scouts his opponent here, sees all the tech as well, so he knows. All right, well my opponent's doing like the same things I am. Cool beans. All right, we have an observer on the way here from Classic, and Rain building a proxy pylon near his opponent's base. The Phoenix won't be able to scout that, though, and I'm not sure if Classic will actually see that at all this game.
Well, even if he doesn't see it, he has a Nexus at the natural. He has tons of sentries, so once he sees a Stalkers or a Zealots marching in, force field, cannon.
Yep.
Boom.
All right.
So now it's a game of who plays who understands PvP better in a similar situation. For example, some players, they're behind, but they understand the matchup better and then come back into the game. In this particular game, it's a battle between scouting and pretty much doing whatever they want to, but also making sure that their opponent is not going for a fast push.
Our unit compositions as well are key in PvP. There's in Heart of the Swarm, we've really seen a lot of different unit compositions come into play. We've seen Templar Archon-based builds. We've seen Void Race-centric builds as well. We've even seen some Tempest occasionally added in to counter the Colossi. The Deathball Colossus composition that we used to see all the time in Wings of Liberty is not as common nowadays. It still has a role, though, but it's not as common.
And look at this, Classic going for the Robobait, Rain putting up his own Robobait, but only does so after Classics is pretty much finished.
Yeah. Also, Classic's getting the Forge a little bit faster than his opponent here. Having that upgrade advantage is pretty useful when it comes to PvP.
So in Rain's situation, he wants to drag the game as long as possible because he knows that he is going to be slightly behind compared to his opponent. If Rain can catch Classic out of position, then yes, he should go for the attack, but other than that, he should just play a safe game. And in fact, if Classic understands the matchup really well and knows the situation that he is in right now, you know, faster Colossus, a little more Immortals than his opponent, faster upgrades with faster second Robo, he should hit a timing attack before Rain gets up to 200 army.
All right, we have double Robo on the way for both players here. But that's
the whole game,
expected.
It's expected, but if you look at the game throughout, Classic is always ahead of Rain.
He is ahead. It's not a huge advantage.
It's not a huge advantage.
It's slightly noticeable, I guess.
It's slightly noticeable, and he could abuse it if he
It's
understands
like
the
having
matchup.
extra spicy sauce instead of spicy sauce. You will notice it.
And it really depends on how he uses the sauce. You know, does he actually enjoy it, or does he just... I don't know how to run along with this joke.
That
So
was
I'm
a
just
great
gonna
joke,
throw it
man.
out. I was getting there. You know, I got up to the top, and all I had to do was finish it. Except I didn't. Couldn't finish it well.
I was laughing halfway through, man. It was so good.
I still got a long way to go before I can make good jokes.
No, that was a good joke, man. It was so good that you got me before the joke was even over.
Yeah, but except there was
talking
no
about how
ending.
players have to use their sauce. We're talking about a hot sauce.
Now, it seems like Classic is slightly moving around the map, trying to see if he can deny the third base from his opponent, Rain. This would be a nice victory for him if he can do so.
I'm not sure if he'll be able to. He can certainly try. We have a third base on the way for both players as well. They're very evenly timed here. The +1 attack upgrade and the Thermal Lance are going to finish momentarily for each player. And the main difference here is Classic's going for his Twilight Council a little bit faster than his opponent here, which is also going to allow him to get those faster upgrades and move into the Templar attack, which you eventually need late game in PvP if it goes to War of the Worlds. And Classic moving in here with some of his units.
Recall.
Yeah, he's going to have to recall out of there. Rain still grabs a unit or two.
But the key point is he didn't lose any Colossus.
Yeah. Supply-wise, though, it looks like Rain got ahead slightly there.
He has more Gateway Army in his main army composition. So that's the reason why he is slightly ahead. In fact, Rain, when it comes to the upgrades, he didn't time the Twilight Council perfectly.
No, he didn't. It's not going to be a huge difference unless we see Classic going for like a +3 timing with 200 army or something.
So here's a funny situation.
Is it actually funny?
No.
Okay.
It's just like, you know, a little
Here's
bit.
the situation.
Here's the situation. Okay, let's put it that way.
Consider the following.
If Classic decides to go for a timing attack as soon as the +2 finishes, then he's going to have a nice advantage over the Rain. You know, he was getting the Colossus for himself a little bit earlier. He got a Twilight Council up much faster than his opponent. But if he just sits there and then tries to, you know, force Rain to engage into him, then we're going to have a situation where it's a 200-200 battle and we don't know what the outcome is going to be.
Yeah. I've mentioned this many times before, especially in Wings of Liberty, but when you hit that 200 army, the game's pretty much reset.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
You have a regular Nintendo, you hit that reset button.
Yeah, I mean, we saw a lot of players make a comeback, but it was quote-unquote comeback because once the players max out, it's a battle that matters.
Yeah, it's all about the control. And, you know, I've noticed having a Warp Prism with your army helps out so much. As soon as you lose some supply, you just warp in charge lots on your opponent's main army.
Now, what Rain does best around this time is get a Warp Prism out, like you said, and warp in a lot of Zealots next to this Colossus. But right now, we don't see any Warp Prism out on the map. Rain is slowly moving around, but he also needs to be careful because he has same number of Colossus, but one less Immortal, and the charge for Classic, I believe, is going to finish sooner than Rain.
So it looks like also something to note here, Rain has 11 more probes than his opponent. So late game, that's 11 supply, not in Rain's army. At this point, it's going to help him out because his economy will be superior, but not until then. Supply's still around, hovering around 150, so they have about 50 supplies to go until they hit that 200. High Templar started to get warped in for both players. I love the gateway positioning here as well from Rain at that third base. It's going to make it very hard for run-bys that efficiently happen there.
Classic just trying to take a fourth base behind us as Rain also gearing towards his own fourth base on the left side of the map. So now we're at a situation where both players are slowly maxing out. Well, seems like, did I just miss that? See that? Because I thought he was taking a fourth base.
Well, it looked like he was going to.
It looked like he was going to, right?
Yeah.
Just double checking before I go too crazy.
All right, here we go. We have more supply for Rain. He does have 2 Archons in the mix. Some Zealots from the left side. He's going to try to go for a flank here. He doesn't have the charge just yet, I think, though.
Yeah, well, Rain also needs to be careful because when it comes to Immortals, his opponent is same, but Classic has 2 more Archons. He also has a Warp Prism in the army, so if Rain decides to push for it, then he could just warp in a lot of Zealots next to the Colossus.
I like that. I love the Warp Prism play here. That's what you want to use. I think now it's going to come to positioning more than anything else. Rain about to finish his +2 attack here, and I'm not sure if we have the +3 yet from Classic. I don't think he started it yet.
I don't think he started.
Getting roasted very fast there.
+3 should be out on the way right now, but those units are out of position, and Rain is gearing towards the attack, but only sending few Zealots to make sure that he is safe to engage into that area. But look at this Classic, he is gearing towards the attack.
He's pressing forward with the majority of his army here, and a nice pylon block off at the last second. That's actually pretty sick, and one of them was forced to get canceled. The Zealot's going to be very annoying here, but it's going to come down to positioning. I think we're going to have a big engagement here. Are both players ready to go for the fight? Yes,
what
they
is that
are.
Colossus doing in the back? That should be attacking the main army instead of just firing on some random building inside the main base. But look at this. Classic has a better arc in this situation.
He has got a great arc here, and he's got the Warp Prism behind, but does he have the units to finish off his opponent, Rain?
He has more Colossus
here?
at this point. He has more Immortals, and Classic is winning this fight against Rain.
Rain, the super ace player, one of the best PvP players in the world, getting taken out by Classic. Protoss player, recently Terran, switching in heart of the Swarm.
Here was the problem for Rain. Few of the Zealots were on the top, and he had more supply tied into the probe at that time. Both players were maxed out during the battle.
I have to say that GG!
Rain, yes, he was doing a nice job, but when it came down to the main battle, Classic had much more army compared to Rain. You know, those 4 Zealots at the third base, they were still alive and well, so that's a supply. He had more probes than his opponent, so that's like, what, 5 to 7 less Zealots in the main army.
Wow. And I have to say that
2 less Archons.
Even though that Colossus in the back wasn't doing as much damage, Rain didn't have as many Colossus as his opponent, and that made a big difference in the fight as well.
I was so surprised because Classic was gearing towards the attack, and he wasn't focusing with the Colossus micro for a second over there.
So STX Seoul playing pretty solid today. They're showing that, well, basically both sides, SK Telecom showing that Bisu should get sent out more, and STX Seoul showing that Classic needs to be sent out more.
Needs to be. He will get sent out more with this victory today.
That's got to be a really nice confidence booster for Classic as well, because he just took out one of the best Protoss players in the world. And he did it looking very confident, and he did it being the better player.
Yes. It's not like he cheesed his opponent for an easy win. He understood the game better. He had the better arc in the engagement. Yes, there was one Colossus that was just playing around in the back.